How cool would it be to just take a knife and swipe it through a handful of times and it come out razor sharp? I started sharpening 3 knives with 3 different steels and 3 different styles. I dulled every knife that I sharpened on a brick to make sure that we had an even starting point. Knife's gotta be dull. We can't sharpen a sharp knife. A cheap $1 kitchen knife. Here's our apex, and initially everything looks good. We've got a very coarse scratch pattern, and I mean very coarse. And this is taken all the way down on the finest stone, mind you, and there's no burr. Initially, the sharpener did a very good job of removing the burr. More on this in a minute. A medium quality VG10 stainless folding knife. The brick did indeed dull this knife. What we did there is we just reprofiled the entire blade. That took about 3 minutes or so. So here's our VG10 right off of the coarse stone, and you can see we have a nice burr along the edge. And here is through the fine deburring side, and you can see we've completely removed the burr. Now onto a higher end S110v stainless steel folding knife. Here's the Manix 2 S110v brick dot edge. Be advised, this is not a tutorial on how to use the sharpener. It's simply a demonstration on whether or not it works, and for how long. It's not even close. It's not even close to being as sharp as the other 2 knives that we sharpened so far. Let's take a look at it and see what's going on. But first, a word from our sponsor. Me. Everything in this video was purchased with my own money, and I can say whatever I want about it without fear of any kind of retaliation, like that's ever happened before. If you want to help support this channel and this type of content and these type of reviews, please hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. It really does help out the channel. It's relatively easy. Now back to the video. The burr is notoriously hard to remove from S110v. And as you can see here, we've developed quite the burr. This turned into a giant problem. Problem. Now it didn't matter how many times I ran it through the fine side, I started over, ran it through the coarse side, didn't matter what I do, light pressure, heavy pressure, everything. I tried everything. I spent like 2 hours trying to remove this burr on the electric knife sharpener, which the vast majority of people aren't going to do. And this is the best that the burr looked. If you see my last video, which I'll leave a link to up in the upper right hand corner, you'll know why this is a giant problem. Now, I was able to remove the burr on a Sharpening Korematsu 1000. Something just seemed a little bit off about going from an electric sharpener down to a freehand sharpening stone. We did not refine the scratch pattern. All we did with some light alternating passes was remove the burr by working it back and forth on the sharpening stone. On our S110v knife here, right there, where we kind of have a funky grind pattern. This is the first problem with this sharpener. If your knives have thick choils, bolsters, or the handle is relatively close to the cutting edge, you won't be able to fully sharpen the cutting edge, simply because you will not be able to get it into the sharpener. For thinner knives that don't have grind lines close to the cutting edge and the bolster is set back farther than 1/8 of an inch, there's no problem. I think everybody has a drawer full of cheap kitchen knives, even me. So I decided to sharpen all of them on the sharpener. Overall, I sharpened about a dozen knives, give or take, before I started to have problems. It seems like it removes the burr fairly well for the first, I don't know, dozen knives or so. And then it seems like, for me, the performance started to drop off on the stropping honing wheel. I've just this thing a handful of times, and it seems like the performance on it drops off fairly quickly. So I took the covers off and started poking around, and I found something. What we have here is we've got 2 of these stropping wheels, and it looks like they are completely loaded with material. These are supposed to be white, and you can see all of the black on the stropping wheel. The stropping wheel is completely loaded. I don't know what kind of material this is, but I can actually dig into it with my fingernail. So it's not ceramic. Whatever it is, it's completely clogged with material. The sharpener is equipped with a diamond dressing mechanism. It's fairly straightforward. There's a little lever you push to either side to make the diamond come in contact with the fine stropping wheel, which is supposed to remove any buildup of material you may get while sharpening. This is the 4th or 5th time that I've dressed these wheels, and I'm doing it very aggressively here since it doesn't seem like light pressure really does anything. It just sort of does nothing. So it does look like some aggressive dressing use from the dressing handle. Did do an okay job of dressing the stone. It didn't feel natural to do that. Pieces were flying everywhere and all kinds of stuff was going on. I have a feeling that it's going to deburr now, but let's try. Now I know what some of you are going to say. You're supposed to use light pressure. Where's the hand? Light pressure. Light pressure. It says in the manual, light pressure. I did, and it didn't work. Use this clean/dress mechanism only if the stage 3 white discs are seriously darkened and when stage 3 no longer appears to be stropping/polishing well. Then it says, if you clean your knives regularly before sharpening, you will likely never need to clean or dress the stage 3 discs less than once a year. I messed around with this thing for like a week trying to get it to work properly without resorting to aggressive, extreme measures. So with a freshly dressed set of wheels, I decided to sit down and figure out exactly how many knives it takes to reclog these. So, 2. Thinking it was going to be more than 2. Here's what that second knife looked like despite passing it through the fine side over 24 times. The abrasive discs are pretty much completely clogged up with material again. It's not going to remove the burr because these discs are clogged up again. So we'd have to do the whole aggressive dressing thing all over again. And it says right on the side here to use sparingly. Use dressing tool sparingly. It doesn't say use every other time. So here this is in real time. This is exactly 7 passes through the deburring wheel, and you can see how much that wheel loaded up with material. Loading can be a big problem for abrasives. Most finer abrasives use some sort of fluid like water to help lift and carry away material from the abrasive surface. Even high-end water stones will load with material if water isn't used. I think that's making it worse. The wheel seems like it's yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. You can't use fluid with this type of sharpener. It's just not designed to be used in that manner. I think that whatever material is being used for the fine side wheel of this sharpener needs to be redesigned in order to prevent loading. So I tried contacting the company, see if I could get any tips as to what was wrong. So one of the things that I'm not doing is I'm not putting all of my personal information into a website to simply try to get customer service. There's a phone number.
The toll-free number you have dialed is no longer in service. Please check the number and dial again.
I think for most people, that initial burr creation, that initial profile is the hard part of sharpening. Just a handful of passes creates a new burr along the entire edge, and we can remove the burr another way. Now I realize that going from an electric sharpener down to a sharpening stone to get rid of the burr for the final step seems pretty stupid. But one thing that this knife sharpener does do pretty well is it does do a pretty good job of putting that initial bevel on your kitchen knives that are able to fit inside the sharpener. In my opinion, that's one of the hardest parts of sharpening, is establishing that initial bevel and getting that burr. At that point, you could go to a sharpening stone and very quickly remove the burr and finish refining the edge on a stone and a strop. This is a cheap $20 sharpening stone from Amazon. And we're just going to do a handful of very light passes on the surface of the stone. And then finally, if you really want to refine the edge a little bit farther, we can use a strop. Now don't get me wrong, this is not the prettiest edge in the world, but the burr has been removed and the knife is sharp. So the final word is I think this knife sharpener is good for profiling and establishing that initial bevel. It's terrible at removing the burr that forms after the blade is apex. If you're wondering why this is so important, check out the video I did in the upper right hand corner. If you combine this with another means to remove the burr, such as a sharpening stone and strop, then you're probably good to go. I can't comment on the long-term durability on this unit, and I'd be leery of expecting to find replacement parts. This is an expensive unit, and I think there's other better alternatives that exist for the same money or cheaper, which I'll link below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.